So here's the thing. I saw a post recently from a friend, and it's a popular one that we've all seen 1,000 times, especially over the last, really, well, I'll say probably over the last 20 years. And with social media doing what it's done to the culture, it's really accelerated in the last 10 years. And that was the post. And it always comes from a good place. 100% of the time, it comes from a good place. And the post is, say it all with me, everyone, I will never lose a friend over politics. Now, we do not, nor will we ever, discuss politics on this show, but this is more.
Ding, where's Catherine?
Yeah, this is more about the people involved with this message, and I think what they're trying, the point that they're trying to make. But I responded, and I was careful and thoughtful with my words because I had a response, but I didn't want it to come off as pushy, as, well, that's stupid. You need to do things this way, because that is the opposite of our goal here and my personal goal in life. The message isn't do what I do, say what I say, think what I think. That is the diametric opposite of what my message is. And so I pecked out a couple of thoughts on this, and I want to read this to you and just kind of go back and forth, because this is obviously a very friction-filled time right now, and for a number of reasons, but one of them is politics. And people are unbalanced by this. And I maintain, and will forever maintain, that there's nothing new under the sun, but what social media has done to people's outlook towards their fellow man is toxic. And it's not necessary. I mean, politics is what it is. It's a means to an end. And it's never been better or worse. It's never been different. It just is what it is. It's a means to an end. It's how people manipulate the world around them. And if you understand that, then it won't drive you as crazy. But people spend more time on this issue than they do on their personal lives. And it's very, very toxic. But anyway, in response to, I will never lose a friend over politics. And I want people, it's a good sentiment, but I want you to carefully think the cardinal point, understand the cardinal point of what the heart of that message is. And think about this. You need to know who your true friends are and hold them close. They are as indispensable as oxygen. Anyone who would treat another poorly, regardless of the situation, was never a friend to begin with. Ever. Friends don't treat one another like that. A friend is something we'll talk about, but Facebook particularly, and right now I'm going to beat this drum until I'm dead, which is everybody do whatever you need to do. Wean yourself off of it, go cold turkey or whatever, but you have to get off Facebook. It is maybe the worst thing we've ever created. And it's sad because it's a pretty good tool, but those who control it control the narrative. And what I mean by that is those who are up there with the dials and the switches.
Right.
First of all, they're collecting all of our information. You should go, there's a setting on there where you can download all of your whole Facebook history. That's terrifying. I mean, I say everybody needs to do that. When you get off Facebook, do that. because you want to keep your pictures and your messages and your contacts and things like that. But get the hell away from this. But when you do download that, it is horrifying. It's everything every keystroke you've ever made, every conversation, everything you've ever said, done, posted, every place you've ever been. It's all there. And that should be reason enough. But anyway, Facebook has muddled humanity into conflating, and that means mashing together or unnaturally putting two things together that don't belong together. It's conflated casual acquaintances with actual friends. And there's a big difference. Furthermore, placing distance between yourself and someone who does not share your fundamental values is not to be confused with losing a friend. It doesn't mean you treat them poorly. Not being friends does not necessarily mean that you are enemies. Very few things in human existence are binary or zero sum. It's like, well, if you're not my friend on Facebook, then you must be my enemy. Why'd you unfriend me? That whole thing. Just it's bizarre what we've done to ourselves. But you simply don't need that additional friction point. Distance actually, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Distance creates a healthier growth environment, and the cancer of social media has created an artificial environment in which we all intake too much of everyone else's friction anyway. We all know way too much about each other. And it's nice that we can keep up with one another and that we can reconnect or connect with people. That's great. But we all know way too much about each other, and that is not healthy. But as I said, it has created an artificial environment in which we all intake too much of everyone else's friction. Always remember, go get this book if you haven't read it, everyone. 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson, and Antidote to Chaos. Jordan Peterson's rule number 3, make friends with people who want what's best for you. Anybody whose attitude is not, I want what's best for you, they're not your friend. Again, that doesn't mean they're your enemy. They're just not your friend. And that word, it's bandied about too lightly. It's like when you're in 5th grade and we've all got kids. Everybody is everybody's best friend. Your kid comes home from school one day, my new best friend is blah, 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 blah. And eventually you outgrow that because you understand that that's a ridiculous concept, that a friend is someone that you can trust implicitly. A friend is someone who you can tell bad news to or good news to, and they respond basically the same way, which is they listen. First of all, they listen. They don't try to one-up your story like, your foot got run over by a trash truck. Well, 2 weeks ago, their foot got run over by a dump truck. And, it's someone that you can tell good news and bad news to. And when you tell them good news, their response is not, whatever, or man, you're so lucky. Their response is, that is awesome. I hope 10 more things like that happen to you. That's what a friend is. A friend is not someone that you just randomly know on social media. It's no accident that Facebook used that word to manipulate the emotional concept. A friend, we don't need to toss that word about too lightly at all. And first of all, back to this whole thing about losing a friend over politics. First of all, you shouldn't lose a goddamn thing in the world at all. First of all, over politics. Politics is petty, self-righteous, and utterly destructive. What kind of dystopian, anti-humanitarian hell have we created for ourselves that politics is allowed to dominate everything we do? It's lunacy. But to the matter at hand, you should learn and develop a better method for defining friendship and who you allow into your circle of true friends. If someone in your life is engaging you in negativity over politics or anything else equally superfluous, you have a big, giant, waving red flag for identifying someone who actually isn't a friend. Is that person elevating you or inspiring you to elevate yourself and others, or are they dragging you down into a codependent sludge pit of antagonism? The honorific friend is sacred and denotes a kind of person that is more than a mere acquaintance. You can't poison your own well by allowing toxic people in for the sake of harmony and under the guise of friendship. You can't just, well, I want to get along with everybody. Well, that's a noble goal, but it's horrifyingly unrealistic. It's kindergarten level thinking. You can't get along with everybody. There's 8 billion people in the world. You're not going to get along with everybody. Most of the time, you're probably not going to get along really with everybody in your own house, but you learn how to make it work. But you can't create something false that you call a friendship just because you sort of want to grease the skids and reduce friction around you. And secondarily, and maybe most importantly, which would make it not secondarily, wouldn't it? You aren't Mother Teresa. No one is Mother Teresa. Okay? And for the sake of your own decency and sanity, you can't play lifeguard to the universe. And what I mean is you cannot go out there and try to befriend everyone and try to save everyone from themselves. You can't do it. You can be there when someone is working to improve themselves, but you can't go out. That's a big part of the problem in the world today, is that another one of those rules is get your own house in order before you go out and start messing with somebody else's house. Well, we skip that step. As I was saying, you can't play lifeguard to the universe. First of all, setting yourself on a clear course of morality is a full-time endeavor anyway, with absolutely no end. So if you try to get your own house in order before you go out and try to mess with somebody else's, you're never ever going to get to somebody else's, because it's a full-time job getting your own house in order. And there is no end to that path. And furthermore, if you try to engage in the act of saving someone who doesn't want to be saved, not only are you violating the first of all thing that I said, which is you can't play lifeguard to the universe, but you'll most certainly be dragged under the surface with them, just like the lifeguard metaphor here. If any of you, I was a lifeguard for a bunch of summers when I was a teenager, and one of the bedrock precepts is when you go in to save somebody, if you're in deep water and you're trying to rescue somebody, you don't let them get near you, because if they do, they're going to grab onto you and they're going to drown both of you. If they're coming at you like that, you basically have to kick them or push them away until they calm down. And then once they're calm, once they're accepting, once they want to be saved, then you can actually be there if you're capable, if you're even capable of doing that yourself. But this whole thing, to kind of circle back around to the original point, this whole thing about I will never lose a friend over politics, I just feel, again, it's a sweet thought, and it's not a bad thought to have, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands or gives, again, not understand what my definition is, but make your own definition. Make sure that you're abiding by your own rules and definitions about what is a friend, knowing what a friend is. And again, a friend is someone who wants what's best for you, period. What do you think?
Well said. And it's funny that you say that, because I don't think anyone really loses a friend over politics, because there's way more underlying facets. Politics is not one thing. It's a number of things. It is a facet of financial, spiritual, direction that you're wanting the country to go, or your small town. It's a whole bunch of different things that make up different mindset. So it's not one thing. So if you actually lost someone over politics, I bet you it wasn't politics. There's a whole lot going on that y'all disagree with that led to that completion.
And kind of the underlying theme of what I'm saying is that in addition to that, what you said, it's more than likely that they weren't your friend to begin with.
Hence where I'm going with that. So I totally back you up. It's funny because Jeffrey A. Tucker, he's with the Foundation for Economic Education. And he had made a quote about that. He said, to permit politics to dictate your relationship is to give to a stranger that doesn't care about you the power that they don't deserve. And that's kind of what you mean as far as government or Facebook or anything of that nature. When you allow the antagonization or from social media or from the government or from the media to rip a friendship apart, you have now just given away a relationship and put your trust into an entity that doesn't give a damn about you.
That's a very good point too, and that's another facet to this that you're bringing in, which is, if it is a true friendship, how in the world can you let something as facile and ridiculous as politics break that friendship up? And if that happened, then maybe you need to take a look at yourself and figure out if this person was a true friend and something reasonably, let's just say, not fundamental, at least it shouldn't be, something not fundamental broke up a friendship, then yeah, look inward. And if you follow that thought process, that was this a true friendship to start with? But that's absolutely spot on, because it's toxic. And I think that we're all too, again, I'm going to keep going back to social media. If you don't get off of it altogether, you at least need to curb it, or you need to find alternatives. And we were talking before I clicked record about some of these things. And you got to start digging for alternatives to these particular platforms. And they're out there. And one thing that needs to be plainly clear is that we all know that, and by the way, I've removed all of my properties from Facebook, so no one will see this on Facebook. Probably no one was seeing it on Facebook anyway when we were trying to put it up there, because guess what? Facebook censors everything they don't like, which is a whole nother legal barrel of monkeys between the platform and the provider issue, which they need to be taken to task for. But they can't censor you. They can't break up your friendships. They can't nudge you in a certain direction. They can't manipulate you. They can't do anything to you if you're not there. And I'd like for people to really take a look. And I'm not, again, not telling anybody what to do, but if you just don't want to, you're like, I'm cool, I'm good, and you're reasonably stable, fine, whatever, I don't care. But if you say, I can't get off Facebook, I'll lose my connection with this group of people, or I won't be able to show grandma pictures of the grandkids, or whatever, bullshit. Somehow we all survived. We thrived as a species before Facebook came along.
With a rotary phone.
I mean, I don't know how we all managed to drive around automobiles without Instagram and texting, and I don't know how we managed to competently operate a vehicle without being distracted like that. My God, what was wrong with us back then? But get off of it. You're seeing more and more people say that they unplugging for a month, or I'm going social media free for 6 weeks, or whatever it is, like a fast kind of a thing. And it's completely and totally predictable what the results are going to be, is that you're more relaxed, you're less stressed out, you have less anxiety, and you feel better in general. I mean, there's physiological, psychological, and emotional ramifications to engaging almost nonstop with social media. How about this? This is a thing that people, I bet, don't want to do. Look at your screen time. I don't know. I barely know what my phone does. The other day, I discovered how to block callers on my phone. I've had this phone for years because
It's my favorite feature.
I just don't care about all that. As long, does it work? Does it? Hello, hello, and can I tell my wife that, I'll be picking up whatever from the grocery store. That's about all I need it for. And listening to podcasts.
Ding.
But look at your screen time. And if it's more than about 2 hours a day, you need to take a deep breath, because that is what I heard. I was listening to Jocko. And they were talking about all this toxicity, and maybe the worst place in the universe for toxic rhetoric is Twitter. And
chat for twits.
Oh my God, he's talking about somebody it had nothing to do with politics, and he doesn't write or talk or do anything in the world about politics. And a lot of people ask him about it, like, why don't you talk about this? And his reasons are very good and very sound. It's like, it's not what he does, but it's pointless anyway. But he had something going on, and he said somebody responded with like paragraphs of, a ready-made response about something political. And what I liked that he said was not, he didn't have a response. He doesn't get worked up over stuff like that. But his response was, I can't imagine the time this guy spent crafting this message to come at me over something else that neither one of us have anything to do with. What do you do for a living? What are you doing with your life that you have that much time to devote to trashing somebody or raising hell or whatever on social media? How in the world do you have enough time in your life to do that? And if you do, first of all, you don't. You're wasting that time. And it's the only resource we have. It's the only resource that exists in the universe that is finite.
I don't understand why people argue with strangers. You're never going to change their mind. And they're probably there just to either obfuscate what you're trying to say anyway, or they're gaslighting you, or whatever it is. Why would you waste your time?
I think it's a pathology. There are some people that just, we talked about them, like the people who are famous people who drive around in their car with their masks on. There are some people who just vibe on drama and they vibe on tension. But I think for the most part, it's the codependency of misery. And if you have not found anybody that will argue with someone, especially a stranger, anybody that will argue with an anonymous human being over anything, really, but over politics or some social issue, knowing these things, because you have to be either completely psychotic or the dumbest human being on earth to think that you're going to have any effect on the other person. That's not why you're doing it. I think that it's the pathology of the codependency of misery. And it's coming from people who have not either discovered their purpose, or they don't think they have a purpose.
Mhm.
If you don't feel like your life means anything, this whole nihilistic, life has no meaning, then you have nothing to hold on to, and therefore things like that you're miserable, and you cannot be miserable alone. That is the worst. I mean, I did a whole episode or two about isolation, and there's a reason that isolation is used as a torture technique. Human beings can't live in isolation. And so if you are adrift, if you are without foundation, and you just really don't have any purpose, you don't think that life is meaningful at all, that's what you're going to do. That's the kind of thing that you're going to engage in. And I got into this little topic last night at the dinner table, which is nihilism and just the various what we would consider negative aspects of looking at life. Relativism, any kind of relativism, whether it's moral relativism or whatever, and just rooted in a soul that is completely adrift, someone without a foundation. Because the question that they ask, which is framed improperly, is what's the point? What difference is it going to make to anyone or the universe in 100 years or 1,000 years if I do X, or if I'm a decent person, or if I'm a terrible person? What's the point? And if you think that, you're lost. Because think about it this way. Yesterday, I went to our, I don't know, we call it the dump, the landfill, the convenience center, the waste management place, is we separate our recyclables and we do all that. And they have the big receptacles where you throw, huge giant cardboard boxes and pieces of furniture and trash and all that. But at the very back, they have where you separate glass and plastic and all that kind of stuff. And I have found I'm kind of weird this way, because I find anything procedural like that to be very calming and very systematic. And it's something I can get lost in. And it's the same way with me with vacuuming and things like that, that I can make patterns, and I can, like I said, procedural things. But anyway, so yes, I'm crazy. So
Military.
I'm doing my separation, and I'm in that world. And it was a beautiful day outside yesterday. And so it was just, I was just in my element and doing my thing. And I pulled up, because we had with our new place, we've had when you move, you end up not only with your cardboard boxes that you moved with, but the stuff that your new furniture and whatnot comes with. So we've been nonstop going to the recycling center. And so I went up to the very front, which is the last big receptacle where you put your cardboard, and there's signs everywhere telling you how to do this. And there's a place where you throw, there's cardboard, there's yard waste, there's white metal goods, and, things like that. And then there's a place where you just throw random trash, whatever, household trash. Here's the thing. So there's a place for everything. But the cardboard is for cardboard, not everything else that came in the cardboard box along with whatever you had. There's always going to be styrofoam and packing materials and plastic and whatnot. And that can't get in the cardboard recycling thing. It messes up the works. And all you yahoos out there that claim that you're so into the environment and want to save the world, I watch each and every one of you assholes throw crap into the recycling thing that you shouldn't be throwing in there. And I've seen your goddamn bumper stickers. A bunch of lying motherfuckers. So anyway, I took my box cutter with me. I'm flattening all of my boxes as flat as possible. I'm making sure there's no random crap in there. And here comes you know, Gert up with her. First of all, it's pasteboard. It's not cardboard. And if you don't know what the difference is, like pasteboard is like a cereal box or something like that. And she's got a huge box. It's not broken down. And she throws it in there. And here comes another guy right behind her. Same kind of thing. He's got a huge rectangular cardboard box. Didn't even bother breaking it down. Throws it in there. Like 3 people did that. And the guy came up, the worker came up because he has to manage this thing. And he has to reach in there with this giant scooper or whatever it is and pull things out that shouldn't be in there. And so he pulled this box out that Gert threw in there, and it was a computer box, and it was full of styrofoam. And I heard him go, "Man, you got to be fucking kidding me." And I was like, "God, I feel you, bro." But the point of that is this. I will circle back around to what I started talking about, which is relativism and nihilism, and there's no point to life, so who gives a shit what I do, because it's not going to make any difference in 1,000 years anyway. Well, that's probably true. Gert throwing her computer box made of pasteboard with full of styrofoam into the cardboard thing isn't going to make any difference to the universe in 1,000 years. Not one single gnat's worth of iota. But first of all, tangentially, it did affect someone, because it affected the guy that was working there.
Just about to say that. Yeah, it ruined his day.
but I'm sure he got over it, because I'm sure he sees that 500 times a day. But here's the heart of the matter, is that those things that's just an example. And maybe it's leaving your shopping cart all higgledy-piggledy in the parking lot so people can't use their things. We're going to get into that issue too. But
oh God,
whatever the thing is that is not going to affect the universe in 1,000 years, so why bother? Well, it is going to affect you. You know it's wrong. Whatever it is that you're doing, you know it's wrong. Whether it's throwing the styrofoam in the cardboard recycling, or leaving the shopping cart in the parking place, or whatever seemingly insignificant thing it is, or what it's sitting in your house, smoking weed and looking at porn all night long. Whatever it is, it's wrong, and it's going to affect you. You, and you. I'm not saying whoever is doing that kind of thing, but whatever the thing is that you're doing, you can't frame it as in, how is this going to affect the universe in 1,000 years? You need to think about that it's going to affect you. Because when you do something that you know is wrong, or that you know is amoral, or that you know is criminal, or that you know it's something that you should or shouldn't do, it affects you, whether you know it or not, and whether you acknowledge it or not. And it rots away at your character, and it rots away at your soul. And that very definitely affects the people around you. And then that circle starts growing. So you can't think of these insignificant trifles as who cares. You have to think of it as, I need to care. It affects me, and I don't live in a vacuum. And I really wanted to make sure I got that message out there because I think we're getting lost. We're not getting lost. We're way out at sea as a culture with this attitude of who cares. What I do doesn't affect anything. And the more we stack people on top of each other in little towns, the more, and we've talked about that, the more anonymous people get, and the less accountable you are for your actions. And then you start getting into this, the more people you hear on Facebook, and Facebook, where Twitter is just the most hateful, toxic place that you could possibly ever imagine. It's like
nothing posted on there is relevant.
Like the ninth circle
None of it
hell.
is relevant, and it's mostly the stupidest shit you'll ever read.
Yeah. But the thing about Twitter is that it knows what it is. Mm-hmm. It's not faking anything. Everybody on Twitter is like, I'm an asshole and here's why, and you're an asshole and fuck you and all that kind of stuff. Facebook is underhandedly, deviously toxic because it allows people to image craft, but it allows people to know too much about other people, and it allows you to become isolated and anonymous, because you may have 1,200 friends on Facebook, but you probably don't leave your house all that much, and you probably don't talk to your neighbors, and you probably don't go into the bank or into Starbucks or into the grocery store and chat with the clerk. So whatever it is that you have on social media, it's not real. And you start to lose hope. When you see every brush fire, and I mean that literally, when you see every brush fire on the Weather Channel and the news, and when you see, the town next door had a tornado, and when you see, you guys lost power with the hurricane that came through, and when you, and the UK just locked down, and the election here, and this, that, and the other, when you see all of those things 24/7, especially when it's the first thing you see when you wake up, it's like a smoker, right? What's the first thing you do when you wake up? What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Look at your goddamn phone. And you're not looking at, you're not playing with the calculator or whatever. You're looking right straight to social media, or maybe if you're not quite that twisted, you're looking at email, which is either way, it's just as bad. And the last thing you do at night before you turn over and close your eyes, unless you just absolutely fall asleep with it, which I've seen, in your hand and just like this, you look at that phone and put it on your nightstand. And when you do that, it chips away at your soul, because you're seeing nothing but either negativity or fake positivity. Now, I'm not saying there's nice people, but it's corrosive. And then you start to get into the headspace where you say things like, what difference does it make what I do or don't do?
Well, I'd like to add a little bit to that, because it kind of ties into our Semper Triad: mind, body, and spirit. Because people are fallible. We're not perfect. We'll never be perfect. But if you don't try with the little stuff, you'll never be able to do the big stuff. That does matter. The little things do in that, because it grows you as a person. And I actually think about that. If you want to go just real quick back to the shopping carts, there are times I'm just lazy, or it's a million effing degrees outside or below. Georgia has both. And I just don't want to walk it all the way over there. But then I catch myself and I'm like, but if I leave this here, somebody's watching. What are they going to think? What am I going to think of me? And if I can't do the little task, then God, or whatever you believe in, or just the energy of the world, whatever your spirit is not going to give you that next task. You will never grow. And that affects your mind and your spirit.
Absolutely. And it affects your body, because your lazy ass needs to push that shopping cart over there anyway, and stop trying to find, people will drive. Oh, Lord, I'm going to get on a tangent. People will drive around a parking lot until the rapture, looking for a parking spot 10 feet closer than the one that's currently open right now. What my strategy is, I look for shade.
Amen. So do I.
Anyway, not to get too far down that road, but you're absolutely correct. And we talked about this previously, which is find somebody or something or someone that you do not want to disappoint. And eventually it should be yourself. Do a thing once that you know is the right thing. Make it the shopping cart. Don't leave that shopping cart. Take it over to the corral or push it back to the store. Or if there's one of the employees is walking around collecting them, roll it over to them. Do it once and do it again and do it again until it becomes ingrained and a part of you. And then you will find, what you'll find when you do that is you will find it really difficult not to. Your brain and your body won't allow you to be lazy like that. And that is the greatest feeling in the world. That is worth the trouble by itself, which is that feedback that you get from the universe that tells you, hell yeah, man, you did it. Cool. Keep doing it. There's nothing better than that. Maybe I'm being silly. Maybe I'm naive, but those are the things of which
It's the little things, Scott.
those are the things of which a full, rich life is made. And we've talked about, we talked to death that life is pain and suffering, and finding the mode of being that makes that irrelevant. But the other side of the coin is that when you work to do those little things, that you will be rewarded. And the reward is not going to come in the mailbox. The reward is going to come here and here. And that's what we talk about. That is the whole point,
right,
of becoming a self-engendering machine of perpetual effectiveness and resolve, with the Semper Triad, which is take care of your mind, your body, and your spirit. Speaking of which, I wanted to make sure that we did not get away before we maybe. I hate slogans and catchphrases and things like that. For example, call to action. You need to give your audience a call to action. Well, you know what you need to do? You need to go fuck yourself. I'll probably edit that part out. I don't like kitschy catchy sloganish bullshit, but there is merit to the concept of giving people a call to action. So it's been a couple of episodes since we've sort of really kind of dug into Semper Concept and Semper Triad, and so I want to try to incorporate a Semper action for the day. And there's one thing that I think is important. It's one of those things that it drives me crazy, but aside from that, it's important. And that is that effective communication is critical to high function and achievement. And we hear daily, minute by minute, and this is one of the reasons that I don't watch TV or listen to the radio or anything in the world anymore. And I've actually stopped listening to podcasts that I thought I might like because of the delivery. And there's a whole thing about storytelling that we could get into, but being able to effectively communicate is more than just about having a conversation. It encompasses everything that you will ever do, whether you need to ask for food or where the bathroom is, or have a debate with someone about an important topic, or have a conversation with a group of friends where what we talked about is taking care of your mind and read, write, think, connect, and you commiserate with one another. You speak that idea into existence and figure out if it's stupid or not, if it has enough merit to go forward. And it's very difficult for you to speak an idea into existence effectively if you don't work on honing your communication skills. And that is everything from looking a person in the eye when you speak with them. That doesn't mean that you tell me what you have to think about this. That means that
especially now during COVID, you can't do that.
That means that you are engaged with your fellow conversants, that you not only do you speak eloquently and you speak effectively, but that you also listen. And when someone with whom you're speaking recognizes that they're actually being listened to, the respect factor grows on both sides, and your communication becomes even more effective. So to be a self-engendering machine of perpetual effectiveness and resolve, which is to do these things until they become ingrained in you, until they become automatic, and you care for your mind, your body, and your spirit, with this part, one of those aspects is communication. And I want, whether it's you with yourself or whether it's someone with their young children, or someone that you're mentoring, someone in business or someone in the church or whatever it is, that if you hear someone, let's just say, not speaking on a level that the platform deserves. It's one thing I've tried to teach my daughter over and over and over and over again for years and years and years, which is there are circles of communication. And when you're with your homies, when you're with that little group of friends, there's a way that you speak. And it's really personal and colloquial, and it doesn't matter. In fact, you should use slang and colloquialisms and all of the things that close little groups of friends do away from other ears and eyes. That's how those little groups communicate effectively. Can you imagine if 4 or 5, sixth graders were sitting around going, "So, what did you think about the debate last night?" "Well, I thought it was fairly erudite." Can you imagine that? That's just idiotic. So, but the circle outside of that is your family. And there's a way that you speak to your family. You don't speak to your family the same way you speak to your little tight group of friends. And then outside of that is, maybe grandma and grandpa. And then the circle grows, and you see my point here. And you need to learn how to effectively manage, or I should say, if you know how to effectively manage, you need to pass those skills along. We don't bother with people much anymore. "Oh, that's just how things are now," or "That's too much trouble," or whatever. And again, never impose your will on someone. Don't just go snatch some random person up off and go, "Look, man, you sound like an idiot. Talk like this." That's not what I'm saying. But if you have the opportunity to pass along communication skills, I urge you to do so. And that's your simple action, which is value effective communication. And I am very afraid that we're going to end up in less than 10 years in a world in which the president of the United States and the lead anchor of the evening news are all going to be talking like this. I'm not kidding. I am really afraid of that, because you hear it. You hear dialect and idioms and things, linguistic nuances all of a sudden start creeping out into the world, until all of a sudden you look around and you go, that person that, like, your pastor or whoever, and all of a sudden they say something and you're like, "Whoa, oh no." And then it's too late. Communication, ladies and gentlemen, it is fundamental, and it is part of the Semper concept and the Semper triad. What say you?
No, I agree with you 100%. And it's, and as you said, you have to do it over and over in order to make it habitual.
Rock and roll.
I was waiting for that.
Pat Mac, we got to give Pat Mac his due on that. Make it habitual. Yes, okay, that's another name I'll drop too. Pat McNamara. If you like us, go out and look up his channel too. He's amazing. So anyway,
absolutely. No, and the thing is you had brought it up earlier. When you were saying that it makes you feel good when, at the end of the day, and that you did little things. And sometimes it's an effort, to do little things. And then after you've done them a lot, it's no longer an effort. But you still feel good when you've done well that day. No one goes home after doing lazy ass stuff and speaking improperly, and that could be angrily, it could be just, as you say, improper or not on the level of the platform that it should be for your audience. Or if you're just a sack of shit, you just don't give any effort whatsoever. No one goes home, lays their head on the pillow and says, let me just bask.
That was a good day.
Let me just bask in the gastric belch of my failure and incompetence today. Nobody does that.
No, and you know what they will do to tie a bow on that is they will go on Twitter and go, "Fuck you, motherfucker, you're stupid."
Right. It's so true.
All right. Well, that was a good conversation, and this part this is the part that you're supposed, according to all the rules, that you should probably do at the beginning. And I don't even want to do it at all. But in order to get the message out there, search Here's the Thing everywhere except Facebook and Twitter. And go make sure that you subscribe, whether it's on one of the podcast platforms or one of the video platforms. If you click subscribe, I think it's something crazy like 89% of all the listens and the views in the world of podcasting, video and audio are not subscribers. And what subscribing does is if you like it, if you like the content, if you like the people, click subscribe, because that way you'll get it auto downloaded, or you'll get notifications when something new has come up. And that's good for everybody. So mash the like button, subscribe, rate, review, all that kind of stuff. If you want to, on the video side or on the audio side on the podcast platform, which the podcast audio is based at, where are we? Oh yeah, Podbean. So here's the thing.podbean.com, and there's also a patron page, patron.podbean.com/here's the thing if you want to contribute and help out. So do all those things, but search for Here's the Thing, and do all the subscribing and all the rating and all the reviewing and all the commenting. Unless you have some really assholish thing to say, then don't bother us, because we're not going to read it anyway. And by the way, you're not going to affect our opinion, so don't bother. But if you're a nice person and you have something really positive to say, we'd really love to hear it. So that's about all I got for today. What about you?
That's it. And also too, if you do want notifications, then, just go to the bell. And once you subscribe, you'll see the little bell, and you just click on that, and then you will get notifications as to whenever we have a new one out.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. You'll see this and hear this in, I'm sure, segments and things like that as we do the magic of editing. And thanks for joining us, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.